We've all heard about the iceberg analogy. The surface web, the social media, the news, the shopping. That's just the tip. It's what we see every day. But beneath it lies the deep web, and deeper still, the dark web. And most of it is actually pretty boring. It's just databases, encrypted forums, or people trying to hide from government censorship. But tonight, we aren't talking about the mundane. We're talking about the stories that shouldn't be true. The digital footprints left by monsters. I've spent weeks verifying these accounts, cross-referencing archived forum posts and police reports. Our first story takes us back to 2011, to a hidden onion service known simply as the chessboard. For a long time, it was dismissed as a creepypasta, just another internet myth meant to scare teenagers. But as more survivors of human trafficking rings began to speak out in the late 2010, the details of this site became horrifyingly plausible. The site wasn't flashy. There were no pop-up ads or complex graphics. It was just a simple, pitch-black background with a 64-square grid. But this wasn't an AI game. Each square on that grid represented a physical room in a basement facility somewhere in Eastern Europe. And the pieces on that board, they were people, kidnapped, trafficked, and stripped of their name. Users would log in from across the globe, paying in Bitcoin to move these pieces. If a player took a piece, the live stream would switch cameras. It would show a hooded figure entering the room to remove the person from the board. One whistleblower, a former moderator for a dark web hosting service, claimed he saw a match that lasted 3 days. He said the most terrifying part wasn't the violence, it was the chat room. The players were eerily calm. They discussed the tactical movements of human beings as if they were plastic figurines. Imagine sitting in a dark room, thousands of miles away, clicking a mouse to decide the fate of a person in a concrete cell. That sheer coldness, treating human agony as a strategic maneuver, is what makes the chessboard one of the most haunting legacy of the early dark web. A lot of people say red rooms are fake. They'll tell you the bandwidth on the Tor network is way too slow to support high-quality live streaming, and for the most part, they're right. It's usually a scam to steal your crypto. But in 2015, a site called the Red Room appeared with a countdown timer. It allegedly bypassed those technical limits by using a peer-to-peer ghost network. Basically, every person watching was also hosting a piece of the stream. This story comes from a cybersecurity student, we'll call him Mark, who thought he was trolling a scam site. He followed a series of nested links, deeper and deeper, until he found a landing page requiring a 1 Bitcoin entry fee. He didn't pay it, but he was curious. He found a way to sniff the page's metadata to see what was actually behind the curtain, and what he found wasn't a scam at all. It was a directory of previous performances. The titles weren't just disturbing, they were clinical. He realized the site was being hosted by a private server in a country with no extradition laws. He managed to capture just a 5-second buffer of the live stream before his own computer began to smoke. The malware he triggered wasn't trying to steal his identity. It was a kill switch designed to destroy his hardware to erase the connection physically. Mark never saw the full video, but he says the 5 seconds of audio he heard, a rhythmic metallic scraping followed by a sound no human should ever be able to make, it haunts him. Every time it gets too quiet in his apartment, he thinks he hears that scraping sound. Our final story is maybe the most terrifying because it could happen to anyone. It's the story of Chloe, a digital nomad who thought she was anonymous. Chloe frequented a dark web forum called The Eye, mostly out of morbid curiosity. It was a place where people traded personal info on celebrities or politicians. But one night, while scrolling through a thread of bounties, she found a title that made her heart stop. It was called The Girl in 4B, and Chloe lived in apartment 4B, so she clicked the thread, and it contained over 200 photos of her. Not just from her social media, but also photos taken through her apartment window, photos of her at the grocery store, even some photos of her sleeping. The terrifying part? The person who started the thread wasn't even in her city. It was a crowdsourced stalking contract. Someone, she still doesn't know who, had put a bounty on her daily routine. Users on the forum were hiring proxies, local gig workers, or petty criminals to take a single photo of her for a few dollars worth of crypto. She wasn't being hunted by one monster. She was being hunted by a network of strangers who didn't even know her name. She looked out her window that night and saw a man on a bicycle across the street. He wasn't doing anything illegal. He was just holding a phone, watching her window, waiting for the next update. Chloe moved 3 states away the next morning. She sold her laptop. She hasn't used a smartphone in years. Because once you're on the Eye, you never truly know if the contract was ever closed. The internet is a tool, but like any tool, it can be turned into a weapon. We like to think we're safe behind our screens, protected by passwords and firewalls. But these stories prove the barrier between the digital world and the physical one is much thinner than we think. Be careful what links you click, be careful who you talk to, and most importantly, be careful who is watching you through that little lens at the top of your screen. If you want to see more deep dives into the dark corners of the web, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Good night, and stay safe.